Joining us now is State Senator Frank Wagner from Virginia Beach. Senator, I know this is a big day today. I appreciate your taking the time to be with us. How are you?
Good, John. How you doing this morning?
Doing fantastic. I have to say that I had a chance last evening to spend a little time with your lovely bride, Lucille, and just want to give her a shout out and also say she said from your first date to the second date, it took you like 2 weeks. What was up with that?
I'm a little slow on the pickup. I didn't realize just what a wonderful woman I'd met. So I had to thump myself in the head a couple of times, and it all came clear to me.
There you go. Common Sense News Time, 9:14. Senator Frank Wagner, and we had a chance to chat with his lovely bride, Lucille, yesterday. Now, Senator, big vote today on the Senate budget, which includes a form, I guess, of Medicaid expansion. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I think that, and again, I'm procrastinating a little bit, but I suspect there'll be. It is the budget day. This is the day that we take up the Senate version of the budget on the floor. It's a process that we go through, and then ultimately, I think the item that incorporates the Virginia version, if you will, of the Medicaid expansion will be broken out separately and voted on, that particular amendment. I suspect that it'll be inserted back into the budget with minimal Republican support, but some Republican support. And ultimately the budget will then come up for vote with that inclusion in it. And I, for one, will be voting in support of removing that language and then voting against the budget as a whole when the time comes. This is just a walk down the very wrong path that we've seen. It's one part of a ill-conceived program called Obamacare that ultimately is going to lead to, total chaos in the healthcare industry, and one of those things is just going to have to be addressed in future by future legislators that'll actually read the bill and not have to read it, pass it to find out what's in it, as Nancy Pelosi said.
Well, Senator, one of the interesting things with this bill, and I've gotten all of the arguments in favor of it on my show, and we've flushed it out, and some of them make a lot of sense. The money, we're paying the taxes anyway. The money is flowing out instead of flowing in. Hospitals need it. We're spending it anyway with emergency room indigent care. Then there's just the moral argument. There are 300,000 people in Virginia that are uninsured, and that's a concern for everyone. They tax the system, and so there's some arguments behind it. But what I can't figure out is virtually every state now that has expanded it has just a myriad of problems. So, my thoughts are, why not wait until this thing gets figured out before you start spending the dollars on it and expanding it? I mean, we had the Speaker of the House of Arkansas, the Majority Leader from Arkansas on Wednesday, an Arkansas woman, then now they're trying to back out of it, saying that it's a complete disaster. So if it's a disaster for Arkansas, why wouldn't it be a disaster for Virginia? Why would Virginia's version of it work when Arkansas's did not?
Well, and let me. It was a broad statement, so I'll try to address some of the things that you said in there one at a time. First of all, we're sending all this money and not getting out of it back. Let me correct that right away, because everybody who has found themselves forced to be into the exchange, and let me say that again, forced to be in the Obamacare federal exchange, they're receiving subsidies. So we are getting a significant portion of that money back, because those subsidies are, quite frankly, the tax dollars that we sent up to Washington are coming back to help subsidize those policies. So that's rule one. What we're not seeing would be the Medicaid expansion for the gap from 100 to 138% of poverty level.
Right.
Second of all, let me address it. Nobody went without health care in this country. You can walk into any emergency room, they will treat you, and you will be seen by a doctor, you will be treated, and you will be sent on your way. So the misnomer that somehow nobody, that there are people out there just not getting health care is wrong. And what we're finding now is that even with the expanded population, still people that have Medicaid, show up at the emergency rooms routinely. So that problem has not gone away, and will continue to go on. Now, yes, true, we did pay subsidies for that. Those that are paying health insurance did pay a higher premium for those folks that are showing up in the emergency room. But I would maintain to you that's a lot more efficient system than seeing our rates go up for what we're paying. Remember, the whole premise behind one of the premises is your rates will go down if you adopt Obamacare. Well, that's not been the case at all. We've seen rates go up for virtually every health care plan, a lot larger than anybody had projected in terms of what's being offered and the premiums have to pay. So, you know, if you want to keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you want to keep your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you vote for this plan, your health care rates will go down because more people will be insured. Every one of them, right down the line, has proven itself to be false. And the reality of this thing is that Obamacare is not about health care. Obamacare is about health insurance, and has little to do with health care, and quite frankly is creating a chaotic system that I don't think we want to lurch Virginia into and expand this thing anymore until things get sorted out and things get figured out. I suspect that you're going to hear from the electorate and hear from the electorate in a very loud and consistent way. This next election, this next November election, will truly be, in my mind, a referendum on Obamacare. And those that stand up and say we're going to go, if you will, back to the future and rebuild it again, those are the ones, back to the future being, let's go dial the clock back 2 years ago when, we have the finest healthcare system in the world. There's a reason people come here to get treated who can afford to come here to get treated. It is the finest healthcare system in the world. And why would we want to dismantle that for the sake of what we're doing when we had the finest system in the world and everybody could get treatment who needed treatment? And can it be done more efficiently? Can it be done better? Yes. Is this the way? Absolutely not. And so that's what this is, and I believe this election coming up will be truly a referendum on Obamacare, and I suspect that we're going to see a backlash from this country as even folks like myself learn more and more about it every day, and everything we learn has been negative in nature in terms of the impact.
Common Sense News Time 921. Senator Frank Wagner, Republican from Virginia Beach, says there's going to be a backlash on Obamacare in the midterms. We're going to see how that turns out. And now, Senator, you've got a campaign for 2nd District Chairman. We've talked about this a little bit. As I talk to other people around the area, one of the questions that comes up is, well, you know, if we elect Wagner, then what happens? How does that affect Scott Ridgel? And how does that affect conventions versus primaries? So if somebody is interested in getting involved, why should they get involved, and why should they vote for Frank Wagner for chairman?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a major supporter of primaries over conventions. I think conventions are an exclusive program. Conventions require many folks of which can't afford a Saturday, to give up a Saturday, and sometimes, like the state convention for the Republicans this year in June, is going to be in Roanoke, and we have Republicans that may not have the money to travel all the way to Roanoke, may not have the time. You're excluding, by nature, firemen, policemen, doctors, nurses. Everybody's required to work on Saturdays. You're excluding soccer moms and kids with their athletics, and parents that need to be there to support them and drive them and do those kinds of things. The very kinds of Republicans we want to attract and make sure are part of the process of selecting our candidates we're excluding. And perhaps the most egregious point by running a convention over primaries, we're excluding military folks, reservists, National Guard members who may be drilling that weekend. All of those folks will be unable to attend a convention but could well participate in the primary. And if anybody has the right to select their candidates, anybody has a right to participate, it should be our military or our armed forces. They're the ones out there on the line, securing our right to have free and open elections. And any process, in my mind, that excludes those folks, those men and women who defend our freedoms from the right to participate in the process of picking their candidates, to me, is the wrong direction to go. I think a lot of times within the Republican Party, certainly a lot of the things I've seen online and party folks talking and some of the literature amongst party folks is that they've lost focus. The purpose of a political party is to get their candidates elected. So the purpose of the 2nd District is to ensure Scott Ridgel is reelected. Mission 1, bar none, and do everything we can to support that candidate in his reelection. Obviously, to support other Republican candidates around the state, and then do everything we can as a 2nd District to support our statewide candidates and make sure they get elected. That's the focus. Also, to train the folks that would help in this process, if you will, the grassroots, to get out, to organize, to knock on the doors, to do all the hard work that's associated with campaigning. That's a very, very important function of the 2nd District and the folks that are in there. Obviously, the 3rd function is important and obviously feeds into the primary mission, which is to get the candidate elected, is to broad reach, to broaden that tent out, to be more inclusive, to reach out to folks that may want to participate and just didn't know how, to reach out to demographic groups that we may not have contacted, to give them that Republican message, and do those kind of outreach programs that will help build the party. I don't think we've done that job well enough, and I think Republicans have a great message that will appeal to a lot of groups. But, we just haven't gone out and done the hard work that it takes to do that. And so for all those reasons, I think it's time that we did that mission to build this party up. It wasn't that many years ago. The Republicans had both statewide U.S. Senate seats in all 3 statewide offices, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general's office. Today we have none. And I just think that's a direction that obviously we're going to need to change if we're going to build this party up. And I think I have a lot to offer in order to do that. And I think, the years I've been in elected office have shown and demonstrated, at least, personally, that I can get out there and deliver that message and do that. And we need to take that message as a party as a whole.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that you've got the energy and the enthusiasm, Senator. There's no question about that. I got only one more minute. People that are interested, they think, look, they want to get involved, and they would like to participate in the election for 2nd District Chairman. What do they do? Where do they go?
Well, each of the localities has a place that they can sign up for. The phone number, John, you have it there with you, right?
757-470-7557.
If they just dial that phone number, tell us where they live. We'll make sure you get a delegate filing form, and we'll pick up the delegate filing form and make sure it's delivered to the appropriate people that will, certify those delegate filing forms as legitimate registered voters, and that's all you need to do. So if you could repeat that number for us one more time, John.
That is 757-470-7557. Can't get any easier than that. And by the way, there is, if you're in the Norfolk area, their deadline is Saturday at noon. So you want to get involved right now. You got a couple of days to get involved. Just call 757-470-7557.
Right. And let me just say this, one little shout out. Before I married Lucille, she lived in Newport News, born and raised, and used Hydenwood Pharmacy exclusively. So I noticed that was your sponsor of the show today, and I thought that we'd go ahead and recognize the fine work they do over at Hydenwood Pharmacy. They really do a wonderful job over there. And I know Lucille misses that, but apparently I dragged her over to Virginia Beach, and she has a different pharmacy now.
Okay, Senator, we want to thank you for that. Hydenwood Pharmacy, a founding sponsor of the John Fredericks Show. We're out of time.